hilarious little teeny tiny random thought post about war. So it triggered me to want to look at some sources. Now, I'm not saying that all of these sources are valid because I got them offline, but I was just looking at numbers. And I'm not saying that this is the traditional way to look at Ifa either, but I like numbers. I like Ifa. So anyway, the question was, how many times does the word war come up in the Bible? One source states that it's 400 times. That's 4. Another source states that it comes up 225 times in 220 verses. So I decided to multiply the two and came up with 49,500, which broke down to 9. And then I decided to add 225 to 220, and that's 445, which comes up to 13, which in some people's thoughts is not the best number, but you break it down and it's 4. So, and you're looking at that, you talking about stability, right? Firm foundations, happiness, manifestation, and completions of cycles. This is in the question of war. So, that's probably what war should be for, more so, in that case. But if you're looking at 13, and a lot of people look at 13 like, it's a bad number, it's letting you know that, in that there's going to be all kinds of issues, conflicts. It's not a good thing to bring this foundation. So it's like chaos bringing order, right? So that's in the Bible. This is how I'm looking at it with numbers. Again, this is not traditional to the Bible, the Quran, or Ifa. This is just how I view things, how I see things. Anyway, so in the Quran, I found 3 different sources, but they were on the internet. Clearly, they not counting the way, and I wasn't going to sit there and count. I'm not even going to hold you. So the first source says that it comes up 6 times in 6 verses, which did not make any sense to me, but I said I'm going to take it. So I multiplied that. That's 36 equals 9. So this is matching that necessity to create happiness and new starts and so on and so forth. When you add 6 and 6, that's 12, that's 3. So we know this is about working together, giving you. That has to happen when there's war, right? It has to be a collection, like-minded individuals pushing for the same thing. Anyway, in the second source, it says that it comes up 109 times. This is against non-believers, though. So this is not just war. This is saying that it came up 109 times in a reference against non-believers. This is in the Quran. So this breaks down to 10, which breaks down to 1. That's the end of the cycle. Which kind of makes sense. If this is a war against, if this would be speaking of war against non-believers, that's to end the non-believers and start new with only the believers, right? So the third source says it comes up 123 times, which is 6. Okay, so we got 6 coming up there. So you got this, the 6, when you in that warish energy, it still is a discussion that help of having some backed assistance, moving forward, it being the 6, right? Outside of that 6, you got the nurturer, sharing, and family and homes, which of course will always affect regardless of the fact. Excuse me, because I wrote it down real quick because I didn't feel like doing a board today. So when I looked in Ifa, you deal with war, it's Ogun. Now me, when I think of Ogun, I always think of technology, but I like technology. I like gidgy gadgets. That's my thing. But Ogun is war. So I break down Ogun in numbers, 6, 7, 3, and 5, which is 21. That's Eshu's number. You break that down 3, right? And then you have, I'm thinking, I decided to look and see, that would be like March. Anyway, outside of that, so when I'm thinking of it in Ifa, I'm thinking of it different. I'm thinking of it, how does war affect the earth? You're looking at the elements of the Orisha. That's how I look at it. Anyway, so Ogun's number is 7 and Eshu's number is 3, right? You break that down and that's 10 and 1. In this system, that's Aldemar. So you got Ogun. In astrology, you can go look up astrology. I'll tell you the houses because I didn't decide. I didn't feel like writing it all out. But you got Ogun, who's in the first house. And that's Aries energy. That's fire energy. You have Eshu in the 6th house. That's Virgo energy, earth energy. Then you have Aldumari in the 5th house, which is like a Leo fire energy. Now, I'm not saying this is exactly how it is broken down when you go into the ancient systems, but this is, you know, something a little bit common. So if you're looking at astrology, you're looking at the 1st house, the 6th house, in the 5th house, which I'm not getting into right now. So in this case, you're looking at how Ogun in Eshu moves around energetically, and then Alodumare. Clearly, if we speaking of war, like I said, and the numbers are common in the Quran to Alodumare, but that's against non-believers. And then the numbers become common in the Bible to the Quran, which is in the 9. Which is not speaking of non-believers, but speaking of happiness, new beginnings, you know, a little bit of struggle, all of that. This is what I get from it when I'm thinking of a war, and I'm thinking of the Bible, the Quran, astrology, Ifa. Again, it's not traditional. So therefore, you know, don't come for me because it's not the tradition. That's just how I look at numbers, how I look at Ifa, how I look at spiritual books in general. But anyway, I will talk to y'all later. Maybe I'll show y'all and break it down. Again, it's not traditional. This is how I view it. This is how I see it. This is how I look at things. Anyway, the other thing is, you know, in war there's tricks. And that's what I get from Ifa. And war there's trickery, unfortunately. During that time, you know, during that, could you imagine Ogun and Eshu tricking Ogun, or Ogun trying to, you know, him being the gatekeeper at some point? Which led me to read in like one of the old dudes. I didn't read the whole thing, but Eshu ran Ogun off in one of them. I didn't read the whole thing. Ogun being strong and the god of war and technology and bringing technology and, you know, clearing paths and roads for all the other Orisha. But anyway, that's just something to think about for people that like Ifa, people like the Quran. I like the Quran in numbers. I like the Bible in numbers. I just look at it different. That's it. Anyway, I'll talk to y'all later. It is me, NBT Sky. You already know. Deuces.